Let us draw the structure for ethene. Let us examine this first. So we have a suffix ene. So this tells us that this is an alkene which has double bonds, right? Double bond. And the prefix "eth", okay, this tells us the number of carbons, which is 2. So if you're going to write it, so it looks like this, right? So 2 carbon atoms that has double bond, okay. Now let's try propene. Okay, let's examine it first again. The ene shows us that it is an alkene, okay, alkene which has double bond. The prop here, it tells us that it has 3 carbon atoms. So if you will write it down, it will look like this: 1, 2, and 3. So you have double bond here and single bond in here. Okay, so obviously there's the hydrogen attached, okay, but I will not require you to write it down anymore, okay. And if you're going to draw this using the skeletal or the line, let me put a mark here, it will look like this. So 1, 2, and 3. So this point has a carbon, this point has a carbon, and this point has a carbon. Aside from the carbon, of course, there is also hydrogen, right? Because here in the structural, it shows the hydrogen atoms, okay? But for the skeletal or the line, okay, you do not include or you do not write the carbon anymore, as well as the hydrogen, because it is already understood or it is given already. But we're not yet done here, because this is an alkene. We should have a double bond, okay? So we can place the double bond here to represent propene properly, right? Again, propene has 3 carbons, so you have 1, 2, and 3, and it's an alkene. It has double bonds. This is the double bond. For 1-butene, if you're going to examine it, okay, the suffix is ene. Again, it tells us that it is an alkene, right, which has double bond, okay. The but tells us that it has 4 carbon, right? It's 4 carbons. And then the one here is a place where we can find the double bond in butene. So let us first illustrate it in the structural formula. There are 4 carbon, 3 and 4. Let's put a number on it: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, the number is just a placement to identify which carbon is first, second, third, or fourth. So for 1-butene, the double bond is here. Then the rest, single bond. Right? And then it's also given na meron siyang hydrogen, okay, bonded on the carbon atom. Again, you are not required to do that. Okay, let's just make it simple. And for skeletal, if you will draw a 1-butene, it will look like this: 1. The moment you put down your pen on your paper, that's counted as 1 already. 2, 3, and 4. Right? So if we are going to assign the numbers, we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then since it's an alkene, we have to apply the double bond here. Okay? So again, this is the skeletal. This is the structural. So in the skeletal form, we do not write the carbon or the hydrogen because it's already given or it's already understood. Now let us have 2-heptene. Okay, so this form of writing an alkene is actually found in our textbook, but you may also call this as Hep-2-ene. Okay, this is the nomenclature for the IUPAC, right? For the IUPAC. PAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Okay, the Hep2-Ene. So let's examine this. Ene. This will tell us that this is an alkene, okay, which has double bond. Okay, a hep here will tell us that it has, or indicates that it has 7 carbon atom, and then the 2 is just a place or where we can find the location of the bond. Okay, so let's write it down. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So it says there 2. If this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 carbon, so this 1, dito natin siya ilalagay in double bond. Okay, sa 2 and 3, that's between second and third carbon. Okay, and then the rest single bond. Now you might be asking, why not 1 and 2? Because when we do the double bonds, it has to consider the one with the lowest number. So 2 and 3 is a bond between 2 and 3, and 2 has the lowest number, so we have to place it or write it here, not in between 1 and 2. And if you're going to write its skeletal, so it should look like this. So since there are 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's count it again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then one more for 7. Okay, and then we can find the double bond on the second, so it should be like this, right? So it's between 2 and 3, not 1 and 2. Again, the number says 2, so it should be between 2 and 3, and then we consider which is the lower between the two. For 2,3-dimethylbutene, you can also call this as 2,3-dimethylbute. Let me write it down. Dimethylbute, and then -1-Ene. So this is the IUPAC nomenclature for this. They're the same. Okay, so let's examine it. Again, the suffix is Ene. Ene tells us or indicate that this is again an alkene which has double bond. Now the bute tells us that it has 4 carbon. Okay, the bute tells us that it has 4 carbon atoms. Okay, the dimethyl, the word di here tells us that there are 2 metal compound. Okay, so yung di-methyl corresponds to 2, okay, metal compound, right? And then the 2 and 3 here, write it down. The 2 and 3 tells us the location of the substituent. And that substituent is actually the 2 metal compounds, right? So if you will write it in the structural formula, it will look like this. So since it is butane, so 4 carbon, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me place the number here, identify their place. Okay, okay, so let us now put our 2 bonds here, so it should be right here. Then the rest will be single bond. Now, why do we place it between 1 and 2? Because as you can see, it says here butene. Okay, although the number 1 is not indicated, okay, between here, it is already understood that we have to place it on between 1 and 2. And since between 1 and 2, the lower number is 1, so that's why it's 1. Anyway, it is written here, right? So but 1 in, so we have to place it here. Next is you have to assign the substituent. So there are two metals present on second and third carbon. So you can place it here, okay, 2 and 3, right? So the carbon will be placed here, right? So how do you write that in skeletal? Let me, okay, do it like, it should be done like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let us assign the number again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is 3. So it should be like this. This is the double band. And we're supposed to write the substituent. It says there 2 and 3. So paste the substituent here and paste the substituent here. So let me erase the number. Okay, so write the substituent here. Right? So we don't have to write or to indicate the carbon anymore because, okay, it is already given. So you don't have to write it down. That's for skeletal. Okay, again, this is the skeletal. This is the structural. Okay, so you see the difference. Now let's do 3,4-dimethylcyclopentene. Okay, so by examining this, again, the ENE tells us that it is an alkene. Okay, pentene tells us that it has 5 carbon atom. The cyclo tells us that it is in ring, just like the discussion in alkane before. Okay, so the cyclopentene must be represented in a form of pentagon. Okay, should become or should be represented in a form of pentagon, right? These two. And then we have another metal compounds, which is dimethyl or 2-methyl, found in 3 or the third carbon and 4th carbon. So let's draw it. Okay, so we have now the pentagon. Now, take note again, since there is no indication where to put the double band, just like in the previous example, right? Here, there is no number indicated, but in the IUPAC, you will see, okay, it is indicated. But what if it is not indicated, just like this? Right, what are you going to do? You are going to assume or always assume that it is located on the first carbon. So for this one, okay, so cyclopentene, okay, you have to assume that it is placed here. So if this is our number 1, number 2 carbon, 3, 4, and 5. So again, this is number 3, right? So where are we going to put the double band? It should be between 1 and 2 because it is already understood na it's supposed to be between 1 and 2. So between 1 and 2, 1 is the lower. So how about the metal compound? Where are we going to put this dimetal compound? So the first one is placed here. The second one is here. Right? So this is the skeletal. If you're going to write down the structural, so ganun din. So carbon here, carbon, 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 and another carbon. The band, okay, should be placed here. Then single band to the remaining carbon. So if this is our number 1, let me change the color of my ink. If this is our number 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, we are going to place our methyls, one here and then another one here.